Actually, talk about BattleTech. Huh? What do you think about all of this nice, awesome,
I especially like the quad mechs. Well, here we go. Another video in the series for Aerospace, and we're focusing on the lower atmosphere movements.
Yes.
And it's going to be special maneuvers.
Special maneuvers. So we finished off kind of mentioning this because we did low altitude, basically moving. But there's a whole load of special things that you can do when you're in atmosphere. Okay.
Yeah.
Special maneuvers, aerospace. Swoosh.
So before we go any further though, I'm going to let you guys know that it is, again, very important for you to have a good pilot. Okay?
Yes.
Spend the BV on a good pilot for aerospace.
If you are taking aerospace units, then seriously consider improving your piloting skill.
Yeah.
Even, like, gunnery is good, but, I mean, I like having a good pilot in a mech. These things, it is almost vital to have the best pilot you can afford.
Yeah.
Because there's a boatload of stuff.
Yeah.
So we're going to go into special maneuvers now. So when you're on the low altitude map, which we discussed before, that can be either just a blank map that you move around and do fancy stuff on, or it can be an actual, like a variant thing, so you can flip it over and use an actual map and have them be bigger scale.
Yeah.
While you're there, you can perform certain maneuvers. These are basically just designed to give you a feel for the three-dimensional sort of space that you're moving around in, sort of thing, you know?
Yep.
They're all fairly... I mean, they all seem to me to be things that I've seen planes do on... Like, if you watch Top Gun or something, you've probably seen planes do this.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And they're common sort of names that are actually mentioned in aviation.
If you've watched like a stunt show or something, you've probably seen every single one of these.
True, yeah. Those Red Bull races are pretty cool, aren't they?
Insane.
They're great.
Yeah. So if we have a look on page 85 of Total Warfare, bing, there's a huge thing. Hopefully it covers us up completely. It'll be like this big...
Because, there's a lot of stuff.
There's a lot of stuff, and there's examples there as well. So it's important to note that every single one of these requires a control roll. We'll go into control rolls in a minute and show you why that's important. But there's a modifier for each of them, and you'll see that there on the special maneuvers table. There's also a thrust cost for each of them. So you have to spend this as thrust. Every special maneuver except for, I think it was
side slip.
Side slip? Yeah.
Yep.
So every single one except side slip.
Slide slip.
Side slip.
Slide. It says slide slip.
Well, that one says slide slip and this one says side slip.
Maybe it is side slip.
And it says side slip in there. I think they typoed on there.
Let's go with side slip.
Let's call it a side slip.
Because that's small. Yeah, that's what I would have thought. But it says side slip in the... Anyway,
for everything except that, you have to do it at the beginning of your movement.
That's right.
Okay, so you have to announce you're doing this maneuver, pay the thrust cost involved, make the control roll with the modifier, and then if you pass and you spend the thrust, then you get to do whatever it is it says it does.
Yep.
And that's basically it. The side slip is a separate thing for VS tolls. So you can, instead of moving into the hex directly ahead, the unit moves into the front left or front right hex without changing face. Modifier is -1 for conventional VS toll equipped fighters only. So conventional fighters get a -1. Standard aerospace fighters and other things that are VS toll, they get just a flat 0. And it mentions there that when using aerospace units on ground map sheets, which we mentioned you can do, just to show you that you need a lot of space, everything there is multiplied by 16. So on the ground map, every time you move forward for one velocity, you actually move like 16 or so. So it's ridiculous. And this side slip is the unit moves 8 hexes to the front or front left or front right, and then an additional 8 hexes directly forward. Okay, so that's one maneuver is taking you 8 hexes out to one side and 8 hexes forward.
Yeah.
On when you're on the map, ground map sheets. So very seriously consider how much space you have allocated before you put these on anything other than a low altitude map, because you'll run out of space real quick.
Yeah, that's right.
So that you can be traveling at any velocity you want, and it only costs you 1 thrust point. And that's the exception because you can do it whenever you're going to move. So you can side slip backwards and forwards across the thing if you want to.
I'm pretty sure though that one is also included as once only.
Oh, okay. So that's
Yeah, because I was looking at that, I was saying, oh well, if I don't have to do that at the beginning, I can do it at any time during my movement. I thought, oh, maybe I could do it multiple times.
But it does still say, after all of that, it still says each unit can make only one special maneuver per turn.
Yeah, that's why, yeah.
That might be only one side slip then. That sucks.
Or side slip, whichever you want to call it. There's two things we've found that's a bit weird, but anyway. It doesn't matter. The main thing is that, now keep in mind that a fighter is going to be losing velocity at the beginning of its turn as well. Okay, it's really important that you have a look exactly how each of these maneuvers is going to affect you. Okay.
Yeah.
The first one, what they've called loop, as you can imagine, basically it comes up and around. Your velocity, nothing really changes, but what it does, doing that maneuver counts as 4 velocity for you.
So you have to have a minimum of 4 velocity when you perform the maneuver.
Yeah, and that will be after you've
which
lost
means
half. So you really fast fighters and things like that are probably going to be using a lot. But yeah. Like I was just saying, because you lose so much velocity by doing that loop, it'll be quite handy if you really need to slow down.
Yeah. So I think it happens before you're allowed to spend any thrust on anything else as well. So you can't speed up to things. So you have to be doing at least a velocity of 8 at the end of your last turn, because I'm pretty sure it halves for velocity, doesn't it?
It does. It halves at the beginning.
So you have to have a velocity of at least 8 to be able to perform this maneuver the next turn. Right, so your velocity will drop to 4 at the start of the turn, and then you can perform this maneuver for 4 thrust.
Yeah.
And a control modifier of +1. So for something as just go up and bleed off 4 points of velocity, so basically stay in the same spot, but spend that velocity so you don't have to go anywhere, you've still got a +1. So
it says it has thrust cost of 4, but under the effect, it actually says velocity.
Yeah, so
you spend 4 points of velocity in the loop, though the actual velocity remains unchanged.
Yeah. So the maneuver itself costs you 4 thrust points. So you have to spend 4 thrust points and then make a control roll. You have to be doing a minimum of 4 velocity. You have to have a minimum of 4 velocity. So then when you spend your thrust, make your control roll. If it works, you do a big loop for 4 velocity and you come back to the same spot facing the same way. And then you spend the rest of your velocity going out, or you can spend thrust to speed up if you want to, or slow down, or whatever it is you need to do. So that maneuver happens first. So the thrust cost is thrust that you're spending in the turn. Right, so you have to power up into the loop to get over and then come back down. Your velocity is your overall speed.
What you have to spend.
So thrust is what you're spending.
Yeah. Thrust is what you're spending. Yeah. No, I mean spending in velocity.
Yeah, you're using
a really huge velocity. Yeah.
If you've got like a 12 or a 13 or a 14 and it's going to carry you off the edge of the board, and you're unable to power down for some reason, you can attempt a loop to bleed off 4 points of velocity. So yeah.
Now keep in mind, if you're playing on the maps with the actual units on ground, that's like every 10 seconds or something a turn. So things are happening a lot quicker. But yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool to have. Because what was it, like the cheetah or something? What was that, like 12? Yeah, 12 safe thrust. So it's
a 12-18.
It can go quite far. It can build up from practically nothing to everything.
Yeah, it can have a velocity of 12 in the first turn.
Huge, yeah.
But see, that will that will trigger structural integrity checks, because I think it's... Oh no, it's more than, isn't it? For high G maneuvers, it's more than.
Yeah.
Exceeds, yeah. So as long as your pilot isn't injured, you're dead on your threshold. So that 12 is twice your remaining health for your pilot.
Yeah.
And it's equal to your 12 structural integrity. So you can technically accelerate to 12 without having a control roll. On a single turn.
Can you imagine being that pilot? I mean, that's designed quite well. You know, I've got to respect that's a pretty cool little strike fighter. That's really fast. But wow.
It doesn't have much, but what it does have, it uses quite well.
Yeah.
I think.
So that's handy for that. So having that loop maneuver is really handy for fast fighters.
Well, that's like even if you're playing like 2 or 3 turns, if you've done some maneuvering and you're up to like a 14 or a 15 velocity and you're getting a bit close to the edge, you can just bleed off 4 and then do your turn. But yeah, it's... Even better is the Immelmann, which is next. So that you have to be doing a minimum of 3 velocity. You are expending 4 thrust. You've got a control roll at +1. And then if you manage that, the unit gains 2 altitudes and ends the maneuver facing any way it wants.
Yeah.
And drops its velocity by 2.
That's kind of cool.
Which, for this guy, if he's up to like 15, 16, 17, he's going, I'm getting too close to the thing on the board. You can spend 4 thrust, make a control roll, flip up and face any way you want, and bleed off 2 of that velocity.
Yeah.
And you've got the rest of your velocity to carry on the other way with, or any way you want.
So basically, you could flip, 180 straight over.
You can do a 180, you can come up any facing you want. You can see it on there, the little arrows that show you.
Yeah.
And altitude +2 on top of it, and velocity -2 on the bottom there. So
minimum velocity of 3, cost 4 thrust to do it, control roll of +1 modifier, and that's it. And there's the opposite, isn't it? It's that split S we were looking at. It's essentially the same thing, but instead of gaining altitude, you're losing.
You're losing it, so you're doing a lower one.
Yeah.
It's a little different because you can do any velocity you want because you're going down.
Yeah.
You've got only 2 thrust that you have to spend to do it.
Again,
because you're going down.
Gravity.
But you've got a +2 control modifier.
Yeah.
And there, you increase your velocity by 1 and you lose 2 altitudes and face any direction you want. So those 2 together mean your dogfighting is, if they're a reasonable distance behind you, you can do a thing up and then come down and shoot, or you can do a thing down and then come along and shoot. And it's pretty cool.
If you're also doing strafing runs and bombing runs.
Yes, and you can just spin around and come back. Yeah.
Can you imagine that? Can you imagine, like, you've got a really good pilot and a decent heavy fight or something, laden with bombs that can actually...
This guy here, he would be able to make a strafe run every single turn.
Oh, easy. He's fast enough anyway.
Yeah.
But at least with these manoeuvres, you've got heavier, slower units going to be able to do that.
Well, that's... The Shilone's got a 6 safe thrust and 6 structural integrity.
Right.
So you could take her up to like a 10, like a velocity of say 10, and just pull the split S, go down, increase velocity, and then do an Immelmann and come up, and then just keep going back and doing runs. Over the single hex.
That's probably what it is too. Yeah.
And that's what I mean. If you're doing like. If you don't want to mess around with all this stuff, and I get why you wouldn't want to mess around with the full aerospace rules, it's a little huge. What you can do is just homebrew yourself something and say, okay, well, spend the money on a fighter or the BV on a fighter, and make a control roll every turn. And if you make that control roll for the specific maneuver, then you can make a strafe run.
Yeah. So you pay for the pilot's gunnery and piloting to effect that.
You
pay the cost.
Yeah. As long as you're paying the cost for the unit and you're making some sort of control roll to keep the unit in the air doing what it needs to do, then I would say, you can just come back over the same map over and over again and just keep shooting.
I like that.
I mean, As long as nobody else spends money on aerospace.
Yeah, I mean, if
Fighters.
it's one player's got it and the others don't, then you could you could do that. That could be quite interesting. What's the next one?
So the next one down
Hammerhead.
there is the Hammerhead, which is basically a 180, which is insane in a plane doing that sort of speed, but it's what it is. So you can be doing any velocity you want, but your thrust cost is your current velocity. Okay, so bear that in mind. That is a huge amount of thrust if you're going too fast for this. And your control modifier is a +3, but if you pass that +3 control roll and you spend your thrust, then the unit remains in the hex it started, but changes facing 180 degrees. So you just...
I'm thinking that if you're basically exactly one velocity, like one elevation above the underlying terrain, and you just you don't want to change heights in any way, you know, because it can actually be important when you're doing because we haven't talked about the actual combat side of things.
Yeah.
So you may actually be forced under some circumstance to do a hammerhead when you don't want to.
Well, that velocity thrust cost is
That's
bad.
monstrous.
I mean, if to go back to the cheater example, who was moving at 12 or 15, right? 15 is the velocity. If you have to spend 15 in a single maneuver in a single hex, then you are having serious problems.
Yeah, that's
you're
true.
making control rolls and you're possibly crashing and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, it's one that I can see being very useful, but you would not want to attempt if you're over your safe thrust in velocity, if you see what I mean.
I think it's something someone might attempt to do if they were doing the RPG game. And they've got their little edge dice that they can get some re-rolls or edge points or whatever it is. Oh my goodness. Yeah. But yeah, that's hard.
That's nasty. Well, what you can do though is what they call a half roll. Now you can't do rolls and evasive action as they have in the 0G, the space ones.
They've split these into half roll and barrel roll.
Yeah. So if you half roll, you can be any speed, pay 1 thrust, take a control modifier of -1, which is cool. This is a nice easy one. You're basically just flipping over.
Yeah.
And the unit rolls 180 degrees, reversing left and right sides and up and down facings. Right, so you have to remember you've done a half roll if you try to gain altitude. If you say I'm going up because you're going...
Well, I think it's to do with with the space battle for the
Yeah.
critical damage, the thrusters.
Yep.
And things like that. So
different firing arcs, different
Correct.
incoming firing arcs.
yeah.
I just keep thinking, oh, I'm going to go up.
Yeah.
Whoops, no, I meant down. Oh, too late. And the barrel roll is basically a full roll.
Yep.
You have to have a minimum velocity of 2 for this one, but it's again a 1 thrust cost, and you have no modifier to the roll, and you just do a 360 flip over, ending with the same facing, and your velocity drops by 1.
Because that's maybe all you need,
Yeah.
you know?
They should let you do that as many times as you want. You should be able to just spin the whole way along the thing, dropping 1 velocity per thing. That would be cool.
That would look cool. We'll have to get your fighter a cape of some sort.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Then you've got the side slip, which we already covered. That's for VS tolls only. And then you've got a VIF, which is a vector in forward flight maneuver. And that's basically, again, just VS tolls only. You can be doing any velocity. You have to pay thrust of velocity +2. So however fast you're going, +2 in thrust. There's a +2 control modifier, and basically what you're doing is stopping. But I think I've seen this done in like a... I can't remember where I've seen it done. It might have been a war movie or something. But basically you're just turning the jets, the propellers, whatever, to face downwards so that you're producing downward thrust. So you come along and you go...
Yeah.
Which is cool. So you gain 1 altitude, but your velocity becomes 0.
Yeah.
So that you can then, as a VS toll, you can then come hover and come down.
It's pretty cool watching some of the actual examples of those planes with their abilities
Yeah.
and things like that. So especially now they're looking at it for drones and stuff like that.
Yeah. I think I've seen a Harrier do it, but
Oh, that's what they're known for. They were just so good.
I'm pretty sure it was a Harrier. I don't know my planes. I've got an uncle in the Air Force and I don't know my planes.
It takes off like that. It's got downward thrust.
Yeah, no, I know what a Harrier
really cool.
is, but I'm not sure if it was a Harrier that I saw do it.
Oh, okay.
There's other VTOL planes. I think it was a Harrier that I saw do it. But yeah, that one is basically, I would be using it if I'm going to land, or if I need to hover and fire at things, or if I'm letting guys halo jump out or disembark or something like that.
Yeah.
That planet lifter, I think, is a VS toll, isn't it?
I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you could like you could pull up, hover, and then get someone to push a locust out the back.
If it's all on a ramp, you know. You've hit a bit of turbulence.
That was special manoeuvres.
Everyone likes just jumping out the back of those things anyway. So.
Halo.
But yeah, so there's some choices, and yeah, depending on your payload, because bombs actually do slow you down.
Yeah.
So that's another thing too. You know, you might have a fairly decent fighter with a good speed, but once you start loading it up with bombs,
Yep.
so then you're going up against a fighter who's trying to kill you with all of these maneuver options. It does not look well for you. So.
No. And all of these have a thrust cost, and your safe thrust is going to be very important. Your structural integrity is very important, and the number of hits you've crossed off your pilot is going to be very important.
Yeah.
Because that will dictate what sort of maneuvers you can make at what sort of speeds. So you have to be very careful with it. Like I say, if the sheer complexity is just too much, then don't sweat it. Just make a control roll every turn and allow a strafing run with a unit. It's
Also,
fine.
Yeah. Because everyone can shoot back at it. It's not a problem.
Mm.
Okay, so there we go. Special maneuvers
Special maneuvers.
for Aerospace BattleTech.
It's so much, I need a cup of tea. I'm sorry, it's just too much. I can't do it.
Alright everyone, so if you
Okay.
haven't subscribed, please do it, because it helps us and it helps sort of grow the community and things like that. It's been very
All that jazz.
good. Yeah, it's been very good.
Good seeing you all turn up anyway, yeah.
Okay,
All
thank
good.
you. See ya.
Bye, guys. And straight into control.
Straight control rules.